Hey, it's nice to have you here to learn about the guidelines for ethical development communications that Fingo has conducted with its member organizations and other stakeholders. The idea and the point of this video is to give you some background information and a few concrete examples and concrete information as well. Let's dive in. My name is Mika Niskanen, and I work as an expert of advocacy communications in Fingo. I coordinated the creation of the guidelines, and Fingo is the umbrella organization for approximately 250 Finnish development CSOs. Fingo does advocacy communications, learning services, and global citizenship education. Among other things, we organize the World Village Festival and publish the Maailman Kuvalehti, which is a media outlet for a curious global citizen. And what's gonna happen in this video? Well, we're going to discuss the guidelines. And first, I'm going to go through some background information. And secondly, we are going to go through the guidelines themselves with a few remarks here and there. So first, the background. So Fingo created the guidelines for ethical development communications with its member organizations and other stakeholders. Our member organizations participated very actively through a workshop and by commenting the draft of the guidelines. And we also consulted a Nepalese journalist, Prikuti Rai, and the executive director of Moniheli, Abdirahim Hussein. And we received plenty very, very important and useful and significant comments from them as well. The guidelines have 3 main commitments and 29 sub-commitments and cross-cutting value proposition. They also have a glossary at the end of the document. The objective was to create a set of guidelines that supports CSOs, ethical development communications, simply put. And we definitely didn't need to invent the wheel again. As we all know, there is plenty of guidelines and other material, and those were used when we were doing these guidelines. So they are based on these ethical guidelines that are already in place. We had approximately 30 sources, and the ones from Global South were prioritized. And just to note again that these were indeed really done in collaboration with our members and other stakeholders, and we all know that organizations have been working on this topic for many, many years. So let's dive into the actual guidelines then. They begin with an introduction, and I'm just going to go through it here. These guidelines apply to civil society organizations, ethical development communications, including fundraising communications. Organizations committed to the guidelines strive to adhere to them in their operations. Key terms are explained at the end of the document. In a constantly changing operational environment, it is impossible to define a clear-cut set of instructions for all communication situations. The most important thing is the effort to act in accordance with the guidelines. Advancing the ethics of communication is an ongoing and collaborative learning process for organizations, and these guidelines are a living document that is reviewed and updated annually. And this version of the guidelines that we're going to go through in this video is from 2024. And we also have a cross-cutting value proposition, and it goes like this. Our communication is based on respect and promotion of human rights and the do no harm principle. Our aim is to promote global solidarity and to reduce inequalities. Yeah, so that's the cross-cutting value proposition. And now let's go to the main commitments of the guidelines. So the first main commitment is that we put people first. 1.1 states that our communication prioritizes the rights, safety, and interests of individuals and their communities. It must not harm the person or the community they belong to. So this kind of includes the do no harm principle, or it does include that. And it's like a summarizing point of the first main commitment. 1.2, we tell people stories with as much dignity as we would want our own or our loved ones' stories to be told in a similar situation. Well, this is the golden rule, and this was in many other guidelines and materials, and we felt that it really supports the thinking process, so we wanted to include it in here as well. 1.3, persons featured in our materials consent freely and have a genuine opportunity to refuse. They also have the right to withdraw that consent if circumstances change significantly. We always ask for clear permission and provide our organization's contact details to the interviewees. And here, the remarkable change in conditions can mean, for instance, that 1.1 is not being fulfilled anymore because of some sort of changes in the conditions. Yeah. 1.4 states that the person featured in the communication materials has the option to decide whether they want to appear with their full name and picture. We respect the decision made. If the situation involves reasonable risks for the interviewee or their community, we will not publish identifiable personal information. Well, this is pretty self-explanatory. This is something that can be stated to the interviewee that they have the right to decide. 1.5, when interviewing minors, we ask for consent from them and their guardians. However, prioritizing the minors' interests and safety. We pay special attention to the privacy of minors and avoid publishing unnecessary personal information. And here the part prioritizing the minors' interests and safety. This came from our member organization who noted that there might be situations where an anonymized interviewee is a minor girl in a child marriage, and in that case would be guardian with the spouse of the underage person. So that's why we added this, that we take into consideration primarily the best interests and safety of the minor. 1.6, people interviewed are informed about how and in what kind of format the material is planned to be used. For example, if the material is used for a fundraising campaign or for a website feature. We provide examples of similar content or campaigns. Nepalese journalist Prikuti Rai, who commented on the draft of these guidelines, brought up this last sentence. So in practice, this would mean that one could show screenshots from old campaigns, screenshots from social media posts or website articles, for example. 1.8. We use competent interpreters when we do not have a shared language. Our interpreters work reliably, ethically, and with an understanding of the local context. When necessary, we use augmentative and alternative communication methods, such as picture boards. 1.9, we prepare for changing risk levels. We are ready, for example, to retract materials depicting people or communities if the presentation of these materials poses a threat to them at a later point. This was brought in by our member organization who operated in Afghanistan. When Taliban seized power in Afghanistan, the organization removed images depicting individuals who had collaborated with them in Afghanistan from all their communication channels. And this was done because it became dangerous for these persons to be affiliated with international actors such as the organization aforementioned. 1.10, we differentiate clearly between communication activities and other collaborations, assuring individuals and communities that declining from an interview does not affect other collaborations in any way. 1.11, information and materials for communication are securely stored by the collecting organization to prevent third-party access. And then we step into the second main commitment, that is, we actively tackle stereotypes and perceptions that perpetuate inequalities. 2.1 states that we proactively tackle harmful stereotypes linked to attributes like gender, skin color, religion, disability, and geographical location. This is like a summarizing point of the second main commitment. 2.2, we use language and images that promote the equality of people. This is quite clear. 2.3, we portray people, communities, and situations in their home countries with truth, accuracy, respect, and inclusivity, and explain the context of the events. So we won't just state that the community is suffering from a lack of food, but instead we explain that drought has intensified, and drought that has been intensified by climate change has hindered food production and has caused a shortage in this community as well. So we provide the context. 2.4, we acknowledge and represent our interviewees as active, adaptable, and knowledgeable actors, even in unexpected roles. We do not frame people merely as victims, but neither do we sweep the challenges they experience under the carpet. This kind of has 2 points, actually. The first one is representation. The interviewees as active actors, among other things, and this is really important, of course, and it's something that is generally done quite well by many organizations. And the second point is very important as well. It says that we won't sweep the challenges they experience under the carpet, and this is also extremely important because we need to be able to also communicate about the challenges, about the structures, about all the problems. We need to be able to tell about them. It's really important. 2.5, whenever possible, we provide a comprehensive background and avoid unnecessary generalization and simplification of complex situations. We highlight the underlying causes of the challenges people face and help our audiences understand the bigger picture. In short content forms, we direct our audiences to additional background information. So we already discussed the context in the previous point, but here the last sentence means that, for example, can a TV commercial have a link to a website article that provides that explains the context? And we all understand that in a 10-second TV ad, it's quite challenging to provide much context. 2.6, we are open and transparent. We do not create false images in which our organization, supporters, or donors alone play a decisive role. We also bring forth the challenges in our work. This relates to white saviorism, which is quite an important concept. It basically, the white savior complex refers to a phenomenon where a privileged person, usually white, helps people in vulnerable positions who are usually non-white, and this helping may serve the helper more than the person helped, and the long-term effects may be very harmful. The phenomena problematically places the white savior in the role of active helper and others as passive objects of help. Obviously, that's not the case in reality. And as a result, the role of local people and communities and the structural challenges are ignored. So this is a really important point. And 2.7, we appeal to universal belongingness, solidarity among people, and the desire to promote justice. Our communication offers our audience the opportunity to relate to people, communities, and the challenges they face. 2.8, we are solution-oriented and present perspectives based on hope. We do not only focus on showcasing challenges. However, we also debunk positive stereotypes. And here, these positive stereotypes, they refer, for example, to situations where organizations' communication only highlights women of a certain age in an active and decisive role. And this may lead, for example, to unrealistic expectations. 2.9, we actively seek to identify our unconscious biases and privileges and how they affect our communication. We understand this is an ongoing process and that requires self-reflection, reviewing our own thinking patterns, experiences, and actions. We foster an anti-racist atmosphere that encourages reflection and learning. 2.10, we critically and regularly evaluate our communications from various perspectives. We also involve people from diverse backgrounds in this evaluation. And from here, we get to the third main commitment, that is, we plan and work together. 3.1 states that we respect and adhere to the nothing about us without us principle in our communication. So this is based on the global motto. This is the global motto of the disability rights movement. 3.2, we plan and implement our communication equally and in collaboration with our local partner organizations and the communities featured in our communication materials. So many organizations already actively does this, and the need feels quite clear if you think about it. If I think about that I would be a young person from Vantaa, which is a city nearby Helsinki, and I would experience social distress, and then there would be this organization who would come to my area and who would want to raise funds to support me and my other young people in my area. It would be really lovely if they would ask me and my friends that what kind of fundraising, what kind of campaigns, what kind of communication should be done. That would feel good. 3.3, we actively consult our local partners, experts, and interviewees on the type of communication we should deploy in Finland. 3.4, we highlight the crucial role of our local partner organizations, experts, and communities in addressing development issues and crises within their societies. Again, this is really important. It relates once again to the white saviorism complex, and this is also something that a lot of organizations already do very actively and very well. 3.5, we favor local networks when subcontracting experts such as photographers, videographers, communication specialists, and graphic designers. We prioritize inclusivity in subcontracting, for instance, by employing experts from minority groups. And inclusivity was brought up here by Prikuti Rai, who commented on the draft of the guidelines. 3.6, our partners, experts, and interviewees tell their stories in their own words in our materials. We do not dictate the communication, for example, with a precise pre-prepared script. So we won't frame perspectives in advance before conducting any interviews, for example. 3.7, we stop using jargon and professional terminology that may confuse our audience, interviewees, or colleagues. We use language and ways of working that are easily understandable to all. We speak clearly, period. 3.8, we aim to democratize public debate through our communication by showcasing a range of voices and stories from both Finland and abroad. So using the organization's voice to democratize the public discussion. So that's it. That's all the commitments. And next, I just want to show you or mention actually this video by Doctors Without Borders. This is how they describe how they are trying to make their communication efforts and their fundraising efforts and other efforts regarding this perspective, more anti-racist and more ethical. This video really summarizes many points very well, and I highly recommend watching it. I will put the link in the comments. So thanks. That's it. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to get in touch. You can find my contact information from Fingo's website, and you can contact anyone from our communication team. And thank you for watching the video, and let's keep on working on this very important topic. Thanks.